amongst the audience. So you check on others. When you check on every other person, you'll be able to know how to do it right. Or is there anyone in the chat that wants to quickly teach these people how to do it right? Of course, what am I saying? Alexander Bernice, who else is there? So when I call out your name, just know that I'm not saying shout out to you. It's not a shout out. Yes, I'm calling out your name. Vincent, Yakubu, Christine. When you hear your name like that, just know that you are not properly renamed. And when you are not properly renamed, just know that at any point in time, you can be removed from the chat. You remember that this instruction has been passed severally. It has been passed to you at the onboarding. It has been passed in the emails that have been sent to you. So several times we have that instruction that when you come on the call, just so it will be easy for us, make sure that you are well renamed, your country first, and followed by your full name. So I hope for those of us that have mentioned our name now, we would rename ourselves appropriately. Otherwise, you may be let out of the call. Yes, it's a good afternoon from Nigeria, and I hope it's the same at all your hands. My brothers and sisters joining us from Cameroon, Somalia, South Africa, Tanzania, Uganda. I hope it's a good day at your hand also. How has your day been? Have you had a fantastic day? Is there anyone that wants to unmute their mic to tell me what has been going on for them? Today's Friday. How is your country? Anybody that likes to speak? If you like to speak, just signify by the raise of your hand and we'll give you the right. Oh, Cornelius, there you go. Yes, Cornelius, speak to us. How's your day been?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayowa. Thank you very much for asking. And my day has been good and it has been amazing. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic.
And I don't know if I'll be given the privilege to just have a single request, if that will be granted.
Yes, yes. What's the request?
Okay, I was thinking that there will be recordings for each of these classes because I'm currently in school doing my registration. I have to just give a way to attend this particular one, which I can't even stay till the end.
Okay.
I don't know if there will be recording because I'm not even going to stay till the end for this particular one. So I don't know if the team will consider any help or something in regard to that.
Okay. Yes, there is a recording because right as we are live here on this section, it is being streamed on YouTube. So at your convenience, just ensure that you go on YouTube and search for EDF Africa. And when you search for EDF Africa, you'll be able to catch the recording of this section. Is that fine?
Okay, but will there be any issue in regard to attendance or something?
Well, I would just advise that, the knowledge is something that is of greater benefit to you, Cornelius. So, yeah, of course, there will be attendance. But most importantly, we are, concerned and we are more interested in the knowledge you're able to gain from the section. So if you do miss the attendance for today's section, it doesn't mean that you're not going to qualify onto the next stage, considering that you are able to meet up about 85% of your total attendance. So if you are missing today, well, it may not be a problem if you're not missing any other. And of course, most importantly, do visit back the YouTube so you're able to catch what we have for you this afternoon. I hope that is fine. Yes, so I would like to hear from another person, preferably someone that is not from Nigeria, maybe my Ugandan, South African, Tanzania, and, Somali friends, who would want to unmute themselves to speak to us. And by the way, while I'm trying to ask about how your week has been, I also am interested in knowing what you have learned on the last session. Of course, I knew last session was quite lively. It was great. In fact, it was a fantastic session that I know. So I want to be sure that what we are doing, coming every week, not just being coming for the sake of attendance, that we've been having one or two things to learn. So right about now, I want in the chat, I want to see what were your key learnings from the last section. What were your key learnings? So I want to see all of this in the chat. Otherwise, if we realize that we are not learning anything, we may not even proceed to today's session. So if you would want us to proceed to today's section, you make do with the chat now to tell us what you learned at the last session. Or if you prefer to speak, you can raise your hand and I will allow you to unmute yourself to speak. So if it is chat you want to do the chat. And if you want to unmute yourself, raise your hand. Yes, I can see Yisa's hand raised. Yes. Yisa, you can speak now.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice being here. So last week we discussed about transformative leadership. Yes, transformative leadership. Being a leader does not mean you have to be in a position of being a leader. Our guest speaker last week showed us a video of a student that took up a particular responsibility, which people later joined hands together in him. The boy is a small boy that no one is even thinking is going to take up that role. So anytime we see a opportunity of contributing to the society, the community at large, even if nobody is taking that step, we being campus ambassadors, we've been taught about transformative leadership. I hope every one of us will take the lead in participating so that we encourage people for bringing up solutions to societal problems. That's all I have to say. And then I am being a leader also. We have to be democratic, and sometimes he said we have to be democratic and listen from our followers, because sometimes our followers may have ideas that are even more initiative and innovative than the one we have. So by the time we hear the ideas from our followers too, there will be a better progress and solution to any cause or any engagement we all want to engage in. Thank you so much for the opportunity, sir.
Wow. Lisa is my best student today. Of course, I really love that, Lisa. That was comprehensive. It shows that you followed every bit of the section, every bit of it. And that was a great summary, a kind one at that. Keep it up, Lisa. Of course, these are some little attributes of a leader. A leader is not just that person that is present, no, but the one that is present with all his mind and ready to learn what is being dished out. So thank you very much, Risa, and I wish you well. Yes, I see other persons too in the chat dropping what they have learned. I want to say this now because I feel like if you have about 50 plus on this session, and I only have less than 10 persons sharing what they have learned, is it to tell us that we are not doing a good job, or it is to show us that probably we just have people on the call who are not really here with us? Or should we even quickly do a kind of a roll call, and when you are not answering your name, you get removed from the group? Maybe that way we'll know whether we have ghost participants or not. But anyways, kudos to those of you that have been very intentional about the learning experience. We understand that many of you may still be in classes or still be in school right until now. I realized that last week we had someone share that is just on the way home and still, trying to catch up with the class and listen. So there's no problem about that. But we have come again for another fantastic session with one of the industry best, just like last week, to keep you again with further learning. And of course, one thing is certain, we will continue to provide you the opportunity to your leadership development. I can assure you that by the time you finish up this program, you'll be a much better person than you joined the program. So this afternoon, we have the honor of having amongst us Mr. Joel Makinde. And of course, I would be reading Mr. Joel Makinde's profile to you. But while I'm doing that, I think it is still good if you can welcome Mr. Joel Makinde with your emojis, with your welcome messages in the chat. And I'm sure that by the time I will read this profile, you will know that this is someone who is really going to be taking you on a journey this afternoon. There'll be so much to learn because he's a seasoned expert with years of experience and so much to offer to you. So Mr. Joel is a dedicated and experienced professional with a passion for driving change initiatives and sustainable management practices. He possesses a keen interest in the intersection of project change management and data analytics, leveraging these areas to achieve strategic objectives in various sectors. As a testament to his qualification and commitment, Joel has obtained several certifications, including Project Management Professional Scrum Master, and PMI Agile Certified Practitioner, that's PMI ACP. Joel's commitment to making a positive impact is demonstrated through his involvement with the Project Management Institute, where he holds the position of Vice President Social Good Initiatives. In this role, he actively contributes to initiatives that bring about positive change and social development through project management practices. For many of you who would be thinking already how to initiate that your project, how well to drive it to your expected end, the phases and the strategies to that, it's a lovely afternoon for you because we have the person to do you the honor of equipping you with the knowledge this afternoon. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think you want to do better in welcoming Mr. Joel Makinde to this call this afternoon. Mr. Joel, it's a good afternoon here. How is it at your hand?
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fantastic.
Maiwa,
It's a great afternoon. Yes. You're welcome. I think our audience loves to see your face, so they'll be able to put a face to the profile, if it is convenient anyway.
Of course, I would share my face when we're doing the question and answer, but for now, I'll just go with audio due to load shedding.
Fantastic. So yes, this is the SDGs Campus Ambassador Program of ADEV. And right on this call, we have students in several higher institutions spread in different institutions within the African space. So we have the diverse population this afternoon. And of course, I am rest assured that the resources from this program is going to be serving each and every one of them. So over to you, Mr. Clark.
Thank you very much, Maiwa. Really appreciate. First of all, I want to welcome everyone to this program. It's nice to be part of this ambassador program. It's also good to know that we have young people who are involved with the SDGs as well as involved with social impact initiatives. It's really laudable, really. And I really enjoyed the first video that was played initially when this session started, speaking to trees, speaking to environment, speaking to sustainability. It's quite an interesting video. And it's good to see several persons all across Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, Cameroon. So I'll say bonjour to the Cameroonians and the French Francophone countries, and to the Eastern African countries, I'll say Jambo Buana. My name is Joe Makinde, so I'll be taking us through project management and community development, building sustainable futures. We'll be looking at what's the intersection between project management and community development. I mean, most of what we deal with as SDG champions, as SDG campus ambassadors will be involved with building sustainable future where we are guaranteed that our posterity would be happy that we actually made certain efforts to ensure sustainability, if there's a way to put it better. So we'll be looking at all of that. Mayowa has done my introduction, so I wouldn't spend too much time there. So I presently serve as the Vice President for Social Impact with the Project Management Institute for Nigeria chapter. So the Project Management Institute is a body that encourages and helps with the growth of the project management practice in the world. It's a global association for project managers and its practices, and it has several chapters all across the world. Nigeria, the chapter, as well as other countries in Africa have their chapters. I am representing PMI Nigeria. I'll be going through this. So to start, why do we need project management to achieve the sustainable development goals? I'm sure there's been several discussions around the SDGs. I heard that the last guest speaker spoke about transformative leadership. And one of the things you will discover as you're going through this program is that most of the things you'll be introduced to, most of the skills, most of the knowledge will be related to how to manage your initiatives, how to lead people, how to manage budgets, how to manage resources, how to manage issues, how to manage risk, how to manage communication. That's communicating with your followers, communicating with other leaders, communicating with sponsors, communicating with different kinds of persons. And the funny thing is, all of these speaks to leadership, and at the same time, it speaks to project management, which we'll be looking at today. Just to get it out there, can we just share if I'm sure everybody has heard the word project management. Can you share your own experience? What do you know a project is, or what would you define a project or project management as? You can share on the chat, or you could also raise your hand and speak. Uh, can we hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Seems everyone is shy. No one wants to try.
You know how it is. Maybe they are just typing and it's just to drop in the chat.
Okay. That works too. Okay, handling projects successfully. Beautiful one by Yakubo. Handling projects successfully. That's an interesting one. Any other tries? Or you could raise your hand and speak instead of chatting. Okay, project management is task being executed. Interesting. Okay, that works too. A project is a well-organized activity undertaken to achieve a certain objective within a well-stipulated timeline. Nice one, Emmanuel from Kenya. Nice one. Bringing ideas to life. Beautiful favor. Beautiful. Okay. In simple terms, is being in charge of the project from start to finish and doing everything that makes a project. Okay. So yeah, these are beautiful ideas, and everyone is correct actually, because every part of what is being defined here speaks to projects, speaks to project management. But I'll just give a very brief description or definition, which is so I'll define what a project is first, then I'll define what project management is. So a project by definition basically is a temporary endeavor uh, that meets or produces a unique result, product, or service. A temporary endeavor that produces a unique product, service, or result. That is what a project is. So a project can be uh, your birthday party. It could also be you painting your house. It could be you building or constructing a bridge. It could be you setting up an initiative in order to feed 10,000 children in, say, Zanzibar. It could be you trying to set up a fund for children, for for the girl child, something that is temporary, that has a beginning, that has an end. And usually there are there's always a unique result, a unique product, or a unique service that will be produced. That's why it's a project. A project doesn't last forever, right? Okay. Now, what is project management? Project management speaks to the set of skills, the set of experience, the set of aptitude, the set of knowledge or tools and techniques that you apply to a project in order to meet project goal within the project constraints. I've said a lot of things, but the key things you want to pick is you need certain knowledge, skills, and experience to be able to manage a project. And the reason why that is so is because projects usually have goals. They have the vision of the project, right? You have an objective you're trying to achieve. That's why you set up a project. And at the same time, you have uh, constraints within which you will work. In economics, they say resources are limited, or human wants are unlimited. So the same way in projects, right? We always have constraints of resources, constraints of budget, constraint of the time. I mean, we said it in our definition that it's a temporary endeavor, which means there's a beginning and there's an end. So there's a constraint of time, there's a constraint of scope, there's a constraint of resource, there's a constraint of budget. And that's why you usually hear things like the triangle, which is the project scope, your project budget or cost, and then your timeline. So that's just a simple definition to get us going with why project management is interesting. And here we have something that says basically that it's not merely about just delivering the task. Somebody said in their definition that is about managing the task or a piece of work done to establish a field of understanding. But basically, it's not just about that, especially when it comes to the field where you're dealing with SDGs, right? Your projects must be impactful. And so you need to be able to uh, make use of certain project management skills, if we will put it that way, in order to achieve these impactful projects or make certain impact in the community. Right. So we've usually heard that projects or project management usually falls into five key areas or key process groups, which is important to know. You would know that first, you need to initiate your project. Second, you need to plan the project. Third, you need to execute the project. Fourth, you need to monitor and control your project. And then fifth, you need to close your project. So when you're thinking about your community initiatives, when you're thinking of that um, project you want to do in a particular school or you want to do in a particular community or in a particular village, you should be thinking first, I need to initiate it. Second, I need to plan it. Third, I need to execute. Fourth, I need to monitor and control. And fifth, I need to close the project. And one thing we always believe in as we speak to project management is what we call the 5 Ps, which is proper planning prevents poor performance. Proper planning prevents poor performance. And so, what does initiating a project mean? This is the part of the project where you set up what is the vision, what is the objective of the project, what is it, who are the stakeholders, who are the key stakeholders that you'll be working with, which area, what location are you going to be working at, and you determine the budget. What's the budget of the project? Because I mean, we don't have all of the money to be able to deal with all the projects we need to do. But then you always have the budget you're working on. And it might be funded. If you have sponsors, then the sponsors will also determine, okay, what's the cost, what's the budget, what's your proposal, and things like that. These are all done in your initiation. And it's also there that you usually will create your project data. I'm just trying to brief through all of this because project management is quite a wild field, and it's quite interesting that people get certifications in different areas of project management. As we go on, I'll show you some of those areas. So basically, your initiation is where you initiate your project, for lack of a better word. On trying not to use a separate language, right? So you plan, and then the next thing to do is to plan your project. Planning is where you go into the nitty-gritty. You go get your hands dirty and determine, okay, what are the steps we need to take in order to finish this project? Okay, let's use an example of, say, constructing a school, a public school for let's say a village that is in say Uganda, for example. So here in planning, we determine, okay, first we need to probably seek the help of certain stakeholders. We might need to speak with the village head, get to meet some of the youth in the community, get to meet some of the students, get to meet some families. We need to determine what land, where are we going to build. All these are still in planning. We have not done those, right? We determine the land. We're going to know, okay, what's the cost? How much would building or constructing a school be? And breaking that down basically is how much would the land be? That's if it's not donated by the community. How much would be cost the blocks, the cement, the the labor costs too, the resources, those who will be getting involved, mason, your carpenter, and the rest who will be getting involved with the building, right? So you do all of that planning, and then you come up with first, you're coming up with your plan for school, because you need to know what kind of school are you building. Is it a bungalow that is maybe going to sit on maybe 6 hectares of land? Is it going to be 2 or 3 story building? These are things that fall under your scope, right? Another part is your how long do we have to do this project? Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? 1 year will be too long because we want the students to actually start school, right? So you set a time limit also. Then you look at who are your stakeholders, what kind of school are we building? Is it a primary school or a secondary school? All of this goes into your planning, right? And then from there, you go into execution. Of course, before execution, you ensure that your planning is done right. Like we said, um, proper preparation, right? Or proper planning prevents poor performance. So you plan properly and then you execute according to what you have planned. Monitoring and control speaks basically to, let me give a very good example that we are used to. So, for example, if I in Lagos needs to get to say Ibadan and I'm making use of the Google map, right? You enter in your destination in the Google Map app, and then it tells you, okay, it's going to take you, say, 2 hours to get to Ibadan from Lagos. And then it also tells you where or which streets or which road you're going to take to get there. That is in quote planning. It's telling you, and it's going to tell you that, okay, take 2 hours. So 2 hours is like your time, right? And then you have the distance. I don't know how many kilometers that will be. But yeah. But as you start the journey, right? When you get to, maybe you get to Bega and then it says that there's traffic, or if there's an alternative route, it will provide the alternative route for you and tell you, okay, this one is, say, 4 minutes or 1 hour longer or 2 minutes shorter, right? You're supposed to make a decision there. That's doing that is basically monitoring and control. Monitoring and control is basically your ability to be able to look at, okay, where are we at? How much have we spent? How much should we have spent? and how can we correct costs. So monitoring and control is speaking to correcting your costs. Are we still in line with our initial plan? Are we still going to meet the objectives we set at the beginning of the project? That is what monitoring and controlling is. So monitoring, as the word means, monitoring what is going on. Controlling speaks to controlling it back to cost, bringing it back to the cost of the project plan. I hope that makes sense to us. And then the last one speaks to closing a project. Closing project is where you are able to say, okay, we have completed. So in the case of the building of school, the school has been built, the school has been painted. We have started recruiting teachers or recruiting the headmaster and all the other persons that will be coming in, and we are handing it over to the community, right? And usually closing can take in several forms, really. But basically, closing is where you close the project and move it into operations. For those that know the difference, they understand that there's a difference between projects and operations, right? Operations are continuous. A project has a time limit. It's for a particular period, and that's certain budgets and constraints around it. So I'm just trying to explain what those five projects groups are all about. And basically, in all of your community development initiatives, you always go through all of this. You need to plan, you need to execute, you need to monitor your project effectively. These skills cannot be these skills cannot be overestimated or overemphasized while you are executing your community project, right? And all of this, when applied properly to your community development endeavors, they make sure that you're able to make impactful, um, measurable impact in the community, measurable impact in your countries, right? And these are four key things you want to take note of, especially as it speaks to community development, right? One is stakeholder engagement. Who are stakeholders? A stakeholder, basically, by definition, is just somebody that has a stake, and so you have direct and indirect ones. The direct ones are usually the ones that are really involved with the project and are making decisions and all of that. Indirect are those that enjoy the benefits, right? So stakeholders are those that have direct or indirect impact or enjoy the benefit of your project, right? So it's in community projects, for example, you have government, you have your sponsors, you have the community itself. I don't know if how many of you have seen situations where you would have a project in a community, and if you didn't carry that community along, it would lead to a disaster. The project might fail because you didn't carry the community along. So it's very important that you carry your stakeholders along and make sure that they understand what you're doing. Right. Next thing is sustainable planning. We have spoken a lot about planning. And I don't know how many people have said, you would have heard that failing to plan means you are planning to fail, right? But there's something else you want to pick, which is that you don't want to have just a plan. A plan is a static document. That is, it's not dynamic. It's just you made a plan at the beginning of the project, but you didn't update that plan as you were going on because things change. And that's the truth. The way you planned your project at the beginning of your project is always different from the way the project will go out as time goes on, right? So you need to always update that project. So that's why you always hear planning is better than having a plan. Planning, continue, so planning, as you see, the verb is a continuous, present continuous tense, is in present continuous tense. That is, you must continuously plan. Planning, you must continue to plan your project. You have a plan at the beginning of the project, but as the plan goes on, you keep, okay, this has changed. How can we course correct and make it better? How do we change the plan? Okay, at the beginning of the project, we planned that cement will cost, say, 100,000 shillings, right? You want to, but by the time you go to the market, you discover that it's now 120. How do you course correct? Do we need to change our scope? Do we need to ask our sponsors for more fund? So that's why you need to understand that planning must always occur. It's a continuous process. Next thing is capacity building, because you'll be working with resources, and in project management, when we speak to resources, we're speaking to resources as in physical resources, and we're also speaking to human resources. For human resources, you must always train them, because for your projects, you have people coming in from different places. And you must always train them to be able to get them on the same page with what you're trying to do. As project managers, you must be able to train your people and bring them up to speed, up to the level of knowledge, up to the level of skill that you need to achieve the objective of your project. And then we have spoken about monitoring and evaluation, which speaks to your course correcting, your monitoring and controlling, right? Okay, so these are some of the things that project managers usually speak about. And as I've said, it's a really bulky area and has several knowledge areas. You see the knowledge areas that are listed there are things that are expected that a project manager must be able to manage. So when you say a person is managing a project, these are the areas that they manage. They manage scope. What is scope? The scope is like, what are the things that are covered in what we are doing, or what are the things that are excluded, right? For the example of the building of school, the school, what type of school? Is it primary school? Is it secondary school? Is it two-story? All those things come under scope. Your schedule speaks to your time. You are managing time. You say it's 3 months you want to complete this project. Okay, so what are we going to do in the first week? What are we going to do in the next week? What are we going to do in the second month? What are we going to do in the third month? How do we make sure that we complete all of the activities or tasks that are required in order to meet the project objective? The third thing they manage is your budget or your cost. You must be able to manage your budget. You must be able to ensure that and say at the initial play, make good estimates, right? I gave an example of probably having 100,000 shillings budgeted for your cement. But at the end of the day, you discover that it became more. As project manager, you must be able to manage that properly. You must be able to ensure that at the beginning, your estimates are right. That also speaks to budget and cost management. I saw somebody's hand raised. Please just type your question and then we can pick it at the end. Yeah. Next is communication. Communications management and stakeholder management usually go hand in hand. And the reason is because I don't know if you've heard, but there's a saying that project management is like about 90% communication, right? And the reason is you're always working with people. You always have team members. You always have stakeholders. And you must always communicate the vision. As the project manager, you must communicate the vision of your project to your stakeholders. You must communicate it to your team members to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And communication is either written, oral, it might be semi-formal, it might speak pidgin English, but there must be communication because you as project manager cannot do everything. You have team members that must do it, and you must be able to communicate it. Okay, we need this done. We need to get the painter to come in tomorrow because the plaster will be completed today. We need 2 or 3 painters. We need to speak to our procurement person. We need to buy. Somebody's writing on my screen. We need to write, we need to get paint. All of this is communication. You must speak, you must communicate. Resource management, like I've mentioned, you must be able to manage resources. You must be able to so resources, like I said, human resources, and then the resources you use on your project. In the case of construction, your cement, your blocks, your paint, buckets, your tools like the bulldozers, the spades, somebody is writing on my screen. Who is this? Nigeria Afro or something. Okay, yeah. So you must be able to manage those resources too. Quality, procurement, and then integration speaks to being able to integrate all of this together. What does that mean? It means that anything that changes on one of these areas affects all of that places. An example is the shillings, the cement we mentioned that is 100,000 shillings or say 100,000 naira, right? That was what we budgeted at the beginning of the project. I'm sure it's very small, but we budgeted 100,000. That was our estimation at the beginning when we were planning. But when we started the project, because of inflation, because of the price of transportation and all of that, we had to buy cement at 120,000. That extra 20,000, right, is coming from just cement, which is a resource. But at the same time, that would affect, for example, when are they going to ship it in? Who do we need to speak with in order to get the extra cash coming in, extra fund? And how long will that take? The proposal, change management, the change proposals to our sponsors, for them to approve and then get the money. All of that will eat into the time of the project. Remember that I've mentioned a resource, cement. I've mentioned that the cost went up. And I mentioned that time has gone up also. So any change to one particular part of your project affects all of that, all other parts. And so as manager or as project manager, you must be able to manage all of these changes at the same time. And you know that if we budgeted 100,000 and now it's 120, some project managers will start thinking of, okay, can we get a substandard cement that will still fall into our budget? And that's where you are thinking about quality management. So it's very important as project manager or as leaders on community projects to be able to think through all of this and say, okay, how does this affect our project? If we change this, how does it affect our cost? If we change this, how does it affect time? If we add more scope, will it increase the time that we add for the project? We planned 3 months, but now because of all these changes, it's going to make us last 4 or 5 months. But you know that more time on a project means more cost because it means you're having more resources. You are paying people more, right? So these are some of the things project managers look into. And then for you to be able to do all of that, yeah, last person spoke about transformative leadership. And you have heard things like facilitation, communication, problem solving, very key. Like I said, when you plan the project initially, it's always looking dandy. But once your project commences, you discover that there are several issues that will come up. And as project manager, as leaders, you must be able to solve problems. You must be able to deal with issues. You must be able to deal with people. You must be able to communicate properly. You must be able to brainstorm. You must be able to resolve conflict because conflict will always happen between or amongst your team members, amongst your stakeholders. As project manager, you must be able to do that. And you must be able to give feedback and take feedback. Negotiation is a skill you will need. Negotiation doesn't speak just to money. Hope we understand that. It also speaks to the ability to get things done. So, for example, you have a team member who says that they can finish this job in, say, 5 hours. But you know that if that person stays till 5 hours to finish that job, the next person who is supposed to work after that person would have to come the next day. But you need that job completed today. You have to negotiate with the person that, okay, see, I know that it's supposed to take you 5 hours, but if I give you a support person like a workman, would you be able to reduce that time to like 3 hours? That's negotiation. So negotiation is not just about money, it's also negotiating outcomes. How do I want it as project manager to come out? How can I make sure it comes out? That is negotiation. And must be able to lead and build your team. So these are there are many other skills that are required as project manager to be able to execute your community projects, right? And all of this you can learn if you take there are several courses on project management which you can take, but basically this is an introduction to help you understand that project management is or the skill of project management or project management as a skill or as a knowledge area is one of the tools in your arsenal as a community leader or as a SDG ambassador. So these are 5 things you want to keep in mind while you are executing your community development projects. You want to be able to define your project scope and goals. I mentioned that this is done in initiation, right, of your project. Next thing is you want to engage your community and see. Very, very important that you engage your community and stakeholders. Your stakeholders can make or mar your project. If a particular stakeholder or a group of stakeholders are not happy with your project, they will mess you up. This very important. Take your stakeholders very well. Inform them of what's going on. Get their feedback. Hear from them. Know what they are thinking. Very important. Next thing is to use a project management framework. So there are several frameworks, but usually for community development projects, you make use of the traditional method of what people call the waterfall method, which is that it's task-based. That's one step leads to another, another leads to another, and 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 leads to another and stuff like that, right? So one thing leads to another, their predecessor and successor tasks. Then next thing is to adapt to changing circumstances. I've talked a lot about that, which is that what you planned at the beginning of your project is usually not how your project will go. And you must be ready for those changes. And you must be ready to adapt to them very well and course correct course. The project was planned to go this way, but it is going in a different way. You must be able to bring it back to the way your project was initially planned, because that's how you can manage it properly. Next thing is to learn from your experiences. Very important. Learn from your experiences. You cannot keep reverting the wheel. There are people who have done the project. And when I say your experience, I'm not talking about your own alone. There are people who have done the project you're about to execute. They have done something similar in the past. You want to be able to learn from them. And that's where you learn, you hear something called lessons learned. Very, very important. Very, very important. So these are 5 key things you want to take. I mentioned monitoring and control. Under monitoring and evaluation, you also hear things like data, like metrics and things like that. There's a saying that what you can measure is what you can manage, right? What you can measure is what you can manage. So it's very important to take key KPI, your KPIs, your key performance indexes, your metrics that you use to measure progress of your project. Very, very important. This comes under monitoring and evaluation also. So I've talked a lot about monitoring and control that you always bring it, of course. But the truth is projects are sometimes real life, sometimes they are not real things that you can see. But the way to manage them is by numbers. During my introduction, there was a talk about the fact that I like to leverage the intersection between project change management and data analytics. Data cannot be overemphasized. Always take data because it is based on data you can know when things are changing. It is based on data you can know when things are not going according to plan, right? There's a saying, I think, I'm not sure who said it, but it's in the US. They say that in God we trust, but all others must bring data, right? So don't just trust what you are seeing. Look for the data and get it to know and make better data driven decisions, right? Okay, so issues will come up as you go into projects, right? And the issues are usually related to your limited resources, right? Or stakeholder conflicts or sustainability. I think I've discussed most of about that. But sustainability is something I've not discussed, and it's something you need to take note of as project managers or as ambassadors. Every thought you are taking towards executing your project, always think of sustainability. Will this thing last? What are the problems it will cause to the environment later? Is there an alternative to this that will not cause problems to the community? Are there ways to make sure that it is sustainable? Always think sustainability. When you have decisions to make, always think sustainability. Always think impact. Very, very important. Ways to deal with this: communication, communication, communication. Engage your stakeholders. I think I've mentioned that too many times, but as you go into the field, you understand how important your stakeholders are. You cannot do everything as one person. You have to get things done through people. And getting things done through people means you must communicate with them properly, you must engage them properly, and then you must adapt your project to changes. Changes will always happen. Take that. Changes will happen. The way you planned it is not the way it will come out. So you always have to be adaptive. I think that's basically what we have. In closing, basically, just understand that project management is a very potent catalyst for impactful change and for SDGs, for example, for the goals that we are trying to achieve. You must be able to apply yourself, you must be able to apply project management as a skill, as a knowledge area. You must be able to manage the project within certain constraints of time, cost, resources, budgets, scope, quality, risk, right? And understand all of this and bring all of this together. So when you're a project manager, you're like a coach, a football coach that is managing your team members. You are also managing their injuries. You are managing the changes. You expected that probably Foden will play next week, but then Foden got an injury today. How do you adapt to that quickly and make sure that you're still able to achieve your goal of um, winning the Premier League? I hope that's example also. So as a project manager, basically you're managing every single thing. You're managing people, you're managing your project, you're managing resources, you're managing your cost, you're managing time. So it's an interesting field to be in, really. It's an interesting field to be in as a project manager. And if you are really interested in this, you can take up courses in project management. There's a free course on Google. There's also a free course on projectmanagementinstitute.org called Kickoff. So you can take up that course too. And we have several certifications with the PMI, like the PMP, the Project Management Professional, the Project Management Institute's Agile Certified Practitioner. We have even courses in risk management, in change management, cost management, in stakeholder management, and the likes. Schedule management also. So PMI is always available, and you can always reach out to any of our representatives. I think I would stop there and then take questions. I see that some questions have been dropped in as we're going on. Yes. Okay, so I'll just take the questions. Is Muiwa there? Muiwa.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Joel. Thank you for this wonderful teaching, this wonderful presentation. I believe everybody has actually learned a lot, and we have gained. So we'll be taking questions now. I think we have some questions in the chat box. Yes, I think you can attend to those questions in the chat. I'm trying to see, but I think I lost those questions right away. But then if anybody have a question, we can
Okay,
do well
so
to...
I see one from Emmanuel Kenya.
Okay.
Kindly expound on the fact that the longer a project takes, the more the resources required. Isn't this highly relative depending on the project? Well, I wouldn't say resources, but yeah, like you said, it's relative. But most of the time, if your project was supposed to last 3 months, for example, and according to your plan, maybe you rented your bulldozer, you rented certain things, those things are counting per day, right? Now, because your project has extended by, say, 1 week or 2 weeks, it means you are going to pay extra 2 weeks on those resources that you rented. That's the increase in cost already, and then increase in the people too. You have a cost to people who are going to be handling those resources. So you're going to pay extra cost to that. I don't know if that answers your question, Emmanuel, but what you want to understand is any change to one of those parameters, or what you say called knowledge areas, would affect the other ones. What you can measure, okay. What made you decide to be a project manager? That's an interesting question, Akin. I mean, well, some of us find it hard to do the same thing over and over again, right? Some of us don't like monotonous work. And so project is an interesting place to be because a project, like by definition, always produces a unique product, result, or service, which means every project you're handling is unique in its own way. It's different. It's not the same thing you have handled before. So that's one of the reasons why I became a project manager. Cynthia, adapting your project to changes, I would like to know if it can be countered by planning beyond budgets. Maybe plan is also plan my for financial crisis. Yes. So what you're talking about here is what we call risk management. So a risk is unintended risk, things you didn't plan for. So we know in risk management, we call things known unknowns, known knowns, unknown unknowns, and unknown knowns, right? So while you're planning, you know that, for example, if you're doing any project in Nigeria right now, that is dealing with fuel or transport, you know that you must put in I think in government they call it padding, but it's not really padding. We call it contingency reserves. They are reserves that are placed there for risky situations where, for example, so you plan your normal way, you do your budget, but you have your contingency reserves that takes care of certain risks. And when you're planning your risk, you say, okay, there's a risk that the price of fuel will increase. What is the response to that? That we are going to, so there'll be a risk owner, and they will say, okay, there'll be more budgets allocated for that. that budget allocated to that risk is not part of your initial project cost. It will be in your contingency reserve. Once the risk happens, it triggers that response straight. I don't know if that answers your question. So it's not really like planning beyond budget. You're not planning beyond budget. There's just a part of your budget which is usually not accessed at the beginning of your project, but it's part of your total budget. It's called your contingency reserve and your management reserve. We can discuss all of that later, but just know there are always reserves for risky situations or for situations that may happen, right? And that's how we plan for that too. I hope that answers that question. Uh, okay, I think that's all of the question I have here at the moment. Any other questions?
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Joel. Do we have more questions? You can also, okay, I think there's another one in the chat box already. So, and if you
Yeah, what
would like,
communication tips you can give to reaching out to sponsors for our project? So there are several ways really, and this I think this speaks more to fundraising. I won't be able to advise as much as I would want to, but I think IDEV would probably provide um, a speaker on that. But for sponsorship, really, you want to be able to get a proposal put together, a proposal that defines what is it you're trying to achieve, what are the, if you have done a feasibility study, you're going to speak to what is the cost and what do you require from the sponsor. Sometimes what you need from a sponsor is not money. Sometimes what you need from them is network. Sometimes what you need from a sponsor is donation of certain resources or equipment. If you ask for money, it might not be enough. Sometimes you just ask for them to, okay, take care of this particular set of people. Say, for example, we want to do a project or initiative that speaks to dealing with the World Malaria Day, right? We want to donate mosquito nets and say all these insecticides to people, to homes, vulnerable people, right? You could have a sponsor that you just tell them, see, we want to donate to 120 people. We would like you to sponsor us in providing 60 of those one, of sponsoring the insecticide and the mosquito nets for 60 people alone. So it doesn't have to be money, but in doing this, you must be able to articulate exactly what you need from the sponsor and articulate exactly what you are trying to achieve. Once you're able to do that, and it's a good sponsor, they should be able to provide the assistance. Okay, so I see another question. How can you make the community members collaborate and support your new project? So it's communication skills or facilitation skills. There are several, they are soft skills really, and they are not things. Some people have it naturally, some others need to like learn it. You need to get them along, carry them along, and it's usually better to work with probably a representative, so like community representative, someone that speaks on behalf of the community, so that you can hear one voice. But that person, you must ensure that the person has integrity, and then the person is honest, and the person is able to also carry the backing of everyone in the community. Also, that person. So I'm saying one person, that's just a strategy of trying to use a representative. Another method might be like engaging people. Even while you are doing your project, for example, the example of the building of the school, you could get your carpenter, your bricklayers, and all of amazing people from the community. That would help you to engage them and collaborate with them better because they know we are doing it for our community, so they will get involved. What is the best mitigation strategy in case a key person in a project pulls out or becomes unavailable, considering time constraints? That's a beautiful question, Emmanuel. So there's something called key man risk, which is what you are defining here. And that's why it's always better that, so such risk actually is a key risk that we usually add on projects, right? And usually your a mitigating strategy, like you said, is one, to ensure that not just one person has access to any particular area. I don't know if that makes sense to you. There's always a person who is responsible, though, but you should have like two or three people who are still involved with whatsoever process that person is doing, so that you don't have a key man risk problem, right? That is one. Two, tie your processes to tie to processes. Tie your operations to processes, but tie what you're trying to do, your activities and tasks to processes rather than to people. I'm saying that, but I'm not sure if you understand what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say, do not tie certain activities to people. Tie it to process, tie it to a system that even when one person leaves, the process can still go on. I hope that makes sense to you. And I hope that answers your question. Okay, I don't see any other question here. So over to you, host. And thank you very much for the time.
Yeah, we should be thanking you also for delivering onto us this afternoon from your experience and from your knowledge. We are very much grateful. Thank you for taking your time to also answer all the questions. And I believe that the entire participant has been nourished this afternoon with the insightful knowledge you have shared. So on behalf of ADEV Africa and the entire team, we want to say a very big thank you for coming around this afternoon. And we hope that if we reach out to you some other time, you'll be willing to welcome us. Yeah. So we'll be...
Definitely.
Oh, thank you so much. So...
And then there's the SDG 17. You're supposed to partner towards the implementation. So we are all together.
Exactly. Yes, that's true. All right. Thank you so much once again. And we want to still keep you on board. Yeah, I know you still have one or two engagements you still have to take care of. So we'll let you have your leave now. And I believe that a participant can link up with you via your LinkedIn profile, you link their account and all that for further engagement. Thank you so much for coming around this afternoon. Can participant once again appreciate our facilitator for this wonderful presentation on project management using the comment box. As you are doing that, yeah, thank you, Confidence. Thank you, Agada from Nigeria for that
So
comment.
I've shared my LinkedIn link. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. It's nice meeting everyone. Have a nice rest of the day.
Thank you so much. Do have a wonderful day too. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right. So before we take our leave this afternoon, I will just share brief information with everybody. I know I will be waiting for our attendance link, and I will be dropping that right away so that we can please, mind you, try as much as possible to go through the link, do the needful, and fill it within the next 12 hours. So all you need to do is just to make use of your social media platform, upload what you have learned today, engage with your space, and attach the link to your posts to the link that has just been shared in the chat box. So you have just 12 hours to engage with that. And I know that 12 hours is a lot of time for you to actually do that. So once again, I'll share the link for you to see, but please do not share this link on any other platform, either your WhatsApp group or so, as anybody caught doing that automatically will be disqualified from the project. All right, it's been a wonderful afternoon and it's been a wonderful section. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we believe that we'll also have you on board next week as we'll be having another insightful section and engaging section so as to become a better ambassador in our respective campus. In case you have any question, do well to make use of the WhatsApp group that will be created to drop your question, and we will definitely respond to you. Okay, just let me quickly attend to this before we go. Alima, you have something to say briefly? Can you do that, please?
Okay, good afternoon, sir. I quickly want to ask that for last week, I actually missed the what's it called. Is there any link for maybe recording session that will be forwarded to our mail, sir, in respect to that.
All right. Beautiful. Thank you. So to respond to that, this section is live on YouTube. So just go to your YouTube account, type ADEF Africa, ADEF Africa, ADEF Africa on YouTube. So once you type that, you see ADEF account, you see the recorded version. So you get to watch the video over and over. So all our section is always there. Feel free to go there and learn again, and do us a favor by also liking and subscribing to that channel so that you can always get more information, more knowledge that we do share in our training. All right, I believe it's a convenient time to say good afternoon, good evening to everybody according to your respective time zone, and we shall be meeting again next week. Do have a wonderful weekend. Stay blessed. We love you. Bye bye. See you some other time.